Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX. My name is Gauri Kundalia. Now, the Prime Minister Modi has met Pope Francis in Vatican City today. He was accompanied by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Minister Jaishankar. Prime Minister Modi held a one-on-one meeting with the Pope and also invited him to India. The meeting was scheduled only for 20 minutes but went on for an hour. The meeting took place ahead of the delegation-level talks during which they are expected to discuss a range of issues such as COVID-19. Prime Minister Modi becomes the fifth Indian Prime Minister to have visited the head of Roman Catholics, the largest religious denomination in the world. Now, to understand what this meeting means, its significance, and decode it further, we have with us a panel of guests. We have with us Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee. She is a former diplomat. Gautam Mukherjee also joins us, a senior journalist. R.P. Agarwal, a foreign policy expert, joins us from the UK. Also with us on the broadcast, Professor Madhav Nalapath, the editorial director of the TSG. Professor Nalapath, help us draw the context here, sir. India continues to be the most diverse country on the face of the planet. Now, in the wake of that, and also people around us telling us that we aren't diverse enough, we don't respect our minorities enough, and so on and so forth, this is an extremely significant meeting. Help us understand its significance further.
The Pope, basically, who's the head of the global Catholic community and one of the important religious leaders of the world. He's an extremely important and consequential individual, and I think therefore it is good that the Prime Minister had a special meeting with him. I also want to say that Pope Francis has been, unlike several of his predecessors, in being extremely reformist in his approach. I was surprised, for example, to come across something that he had said in 2019 about the need for a plant-based diet. In other words, a vegetarian diet. Now he said a plant-based diet is what you need, and I think that that's so important because studies have shown that if you reduce the consumption of red meat, well, the carbon footprint goes down very significantly. So there is a lot of, if I may say so, a lot of reform where Pope Francis is concerned. Prime Minister Modi comes from a multi-religious country. He is very proud of that, and he basically celebrates that. And the Pope Francis has also made interfaith dialogue, interfaith harmony, one of the central pillars of his tenure in the Vatican. Apart from that, of course, you have the problem of COVID. India has faced up to that problem. India, at the beginning of this, was very, very prolific in giving vaccines to the rest of the world, and hopefully that will soon resume. The Prime Minister Modi and he will be on the same page of that. On climate, Prime Minister Modi has made it very clear, India should be part of the solution, never part of the problem. Right. India has done a lot for climate change. Here again, he'll have resonance with the pontiff, who has basically also been putting the climate issue front and center in many of his public declarations. These are two individuals who share a worldview that in many respects matches each other, and therefore I think it's a very welcome meeting.
Right. Ambassador Mukherjee, how do you see this, ma'am? The meeting of a reformist Pope with the head of the government of the most diverse country in the world. How do you read this meeting?
Well, Gauri, I was looking at the notes and I recalled that the last time an Indian Prime Minister met the Pope was Vajpayee Sahib in June 2000, and I was part of that delegation. And there also Vajpayee Sahib invited the Pope, and the Pope accepted and came to India. And today we have Prime Minister Modi meeting the Pope. This is a Pope who has done so much for poverty eradication. When he was in Argentina, his message about poverty eradication would resonate with our Prime Minister's commitment to eradicate poverty and bring development. His invitation to the Pope, I hope, will quell those naysayers who criticize everything that the BJP and the PM does, because he is speaking as a country which has a proud Roman Catholic population who've never been discriminated against. And I'm sure that when the Pope already accepted his invitation, he would have an opportunity to see for himself that we are a vibrant, multi-religious democracy where all religions are respected. Moreover, on climate change, this is a Pope who is committed to climate change, like our Prime Minister, and I understand that the meeting went far beyond the time allocated. It was a one-to-one, which is also similar to what happened with Vatican, and they must have had a lot to talk about, and it will be interesting to know the perspective from the Pope releases the expected president. But I understand it was an extremely successful meeting, and I am so glad that this will hopefully stop those who keep criticizing for no rhyme or reason, and that we will soon have a very successful visit of the Pope, the Holy Father, to India.
Right. Mr. Agarwal, you join us from UK. Many in your part of the world have been telling us about a lot of things about our own country, about how we treat our minorities, etc., etc. This meeting is extremely significant in that regard because this is the head of the Roman Catholics around the world. How do you read the situation, especially in the context of what has been happening and being said and being reported in the media, especially in the Western media?
I think there's some specific activists who are spreading these rumors regarding minorities in India. But if you look at for the last 7 years, there hasn't been any problem with minorities. There was some politician before. They spread rumors and they try to appease minorities. What Modi said was, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas. So he has never discriminated against the minority. And for the last 7 years, if you look at India, there has never been a rise in India. So he has given everything equality, and the Christian missionaries have been operating in India for many, many years, and they never found any problem in India. And for the last few years, when there were some rumors regarding the problem with Christians, but that is proven to be false. So I think these are all the rumors which are spread by so-called liberal media, which are proven to be very false. And I think most of the Western countries and Western media appreciate what Modi has been doing for the eradication of the poverty, for the poor people, and taking the India forward. So I think it has been very positive. Meeting with Pope was very good. The Pope come from the developing country from Argentina, and they shared a lot of common views regarding eradication of the poverty and how to deal with the COVID as well as climate change.
Right. Mr. Mukherjee, if I could come to you next. We're given to understand that the Prime Minister has also extended an invite to the Pope to come to India. How beautiful would it be for him to actually visit India and perhaps even Ayodhya? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't heard him accept as yet, Gauri. So let us see if he comes before 2024. Going to a construction site at Ayodhya right now won't make much difference. Having said that, does he come at all? The other interesting point is, I think this is good optics when the G20 is being held in Roman Catholic Italy, and he is going to have a bilateral with the Italian head of state as well as a number of the others. Most of Europe is overwhelmingly Christian. Any criticism with regard to India's Hindu nationalist stances will be blunted by this meeting, which actually went on for rather longer than was scheduled. So that's not a bad thing. However, I am not very hopeful about the Pope making much difference to anything apart from creating a good atmosphere for the G20 meetings and possibly also at the climate talks in Glasgow. As far as concern for climate goes, I think there's a huge north-south divide. It's all very well after you've eaten everything in the forest and knocked down every tree to come to climate and then put most of the onus on countries like India and China, which are in an industrial growth and who are largely dependent on coal as it stands, and petroleum, because neither of those things are in profusion within the two largest, if you like, populations as well as economies in this part of the world. There has been little or nothing said about compensation. It has been promised and not forthcoming at all. And for us to be, we've already said, look here, we can't commit to the zero carbon footprint by such and such date because, it costs a lot of money for us to either clean up in terms of usage of coal or for you people to supply some of those promises in terms of hard currency. So I don't really see this except in terms of broad optics. As far as the Catholic community in India go, they are 20 million strong, perhaps a little larger, but the attitude has not been too inclusive on their part with the aspirations of this government either. So it's partly the Pope and the Vatican and partly the Christian community right here, which seems to resent this government. So let us see what happens next.
Okay, all right, fair points. Professor Nalapath, optics is what Mr. Mukherjee says is all at play here. But speaking of optics, same question to you. Should he accept the invite to India and should it be after 2024? Would the Pope in Ayodhya be a beautiful symbol of multiculturalism?
I would definitely say that the Pope would be very welcome in India. I'm not very sure about visiting Ayodhya, because I mean, whether that can be fitted in the itinerary, but definitely a visit to India would be very welcome. Right. And I'd like to say that, in my opinion, this meeting is about a lot more than optics, actually. Okay. Because, for example, you had Stalin, if you remember, and when Churchill mentioned the Pope, Stalin asked how many divisions the Pope has. Well, the Pope may not have divisions in the military, but the Pope has a certain moral influence across the world. And as I said, I was pleasantly surprised when I heard him espouse vegetarianism. Look, the reality of the situation is Pope Francis has worked very hard as a priest in his country, Argentina, to bring up the poor. And there have been terrible stories about the poor in Argentina, and he has worked very hard to help these people. He has worked very hard to ensure that people who have been persecuted by some dictatorships, that this persecution is somehow, put a stop to in a manner which, I mean, obviously there are limits to how far you could go in a dictatorial country, but he has pushed those limits. So, I mean, that is a very interesting situation. And here you have Prime Minister Modi. He himself comes, frankly, from a very humble background. He is proud of that background, and so is the whole country. And it's a testament to the vibrancy of democracy in India that you have, Narendra Modi, who has come from that background. And I'd like to say, that background still continues. A lot of politicians, when they come to power, the entire family becomes super rich, but it's not the case with the Modi family at all. So I'd like to say that there must be a resonance in the Prime Minister for what Pope Francis has done. And I can assure you, the more Pope Francis understands about what is happening in India, there will be a resonance in his mind and heart as well.
Very interesting parallels drawn between Prime Minister Modi and Pope Francis, be it their humble origins or reformist outlooks. In that context, Ambassador Mukherjee, which side of the fence are you on? Is it just optics, or do these kinds of meetings with faith leaders have actual impact as far as these relations are concerned?
I think much more than optics. I love Professor Nanapat's quip about how many divisions the Pope has. It's very true. He has spiritual power rather than hard power. But more than that, he is coming to a country which has seen Christianity for a very long time, and where Christians, like others, have never been subjected to unfair treatment, discrimination, etc. Whether he goes to Ayodhya or he goes down to Kerala, and the first Christian set his foot on this holy land of ours centuries ago, that is a decision for the Vatican and the NEA to take. He would be most welcome wherever he wants to go. Might even want to see the Golden Temple. No. The point is not that. I had heard that he has accepted invitation. Mr. Mukherjee was not sure about, and that I am confident that given his background of working for the poor and marginalized in Buenos Aires, where he was an iconic person, he would find a visit to India would be an eye-opener for him. The manner in which this vast country together and move people from poverty to development. And that is something that is bound to touch his heart. As Professor Nanapat said, this is also a Pope not trying to hide the flaws and warts of Christian system, and he has tried to reform the church. This was much needed. I spent 11 years myself in the Roman Catholic school. If there was much need for reform, and Pope Francis is committed to that reform. So I think he has not existed. He would come. I don't know whether he would want to wait till 2024 after Pope John Paul II visited India twice. I was there on both occasions. He might want to come next year. The place would be welcome as convenient. Where he goes would be according to what the Holy Father would like to do. But as Professor Nalapat said, he would most welcome to come, and India's Christian community we could try to organize some extremely good gatherings so that he for himself how religion in India is treated in a secular manner where minorities or majorities live together in peace and harmony. That's the message. That's not a cosmetic message. That's a real message which is given to the world when Prime Minister Modi met them.
Right. Points very well made, Ambassador Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee, coming to you, a specific question: what do these kinds of meetings, be it with be it Modi visiting the Vatican or Pope coming to India, what do these meetings mean for the Christian clergy in India, for the Christian community in India? What kind of significance does it hold for them? Mr. Gautam Mukherjee.
Obviously, they will be ecstatic, Gauri, in the event that he does come, whenever he does come. If he comes soon, from previous papal visits, it is a thing of great pride and consequence for the entire laity, as well as the priests and the church and the high officials. So to that extent, it will go down rather well. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Mr. Agarwal, how does the world then respond to such meetings, especially in the UK, in the US? What is read into these kinds of meetings, especially in the media there?
I think it does very well, particularly the meeting which was scheduled to last 20 minutes, lasted for an hour. And as the media has projected Modi as a Hindu nationalist leader, meeting with the Pope, who represents 1.6 billion people in the world, it gives a very positive indication to the where does the India stand. And I'm quite positive that Pope will accept the invitation of Prime Minister Modi to visit India, because India does have a very old history of having missionaries in India, and there's, as I said, 20 million Christians in India, and I'm pretty certain that Pope will accept the invitation, and it gives a very positive indication to the whole of Western India that India is a multi-religious and multicultural society, and the Christians has been progressing for very, very long, for a long time. And there are many Christians in Kerala, in Karnataka, in Northeast, everywhere in the country, and they are living very peacefully and taking, they are very good. They are peaceful, and they try to stay within the law of India.
Right. Professor Nalapal, do you see any other meetings with such faith leaders in the future as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned?
Well, one thing is very clear. The Prime Minister is proud of being the head of government of a multicultural, multi-faith country. And, whether it be a Hindu festival or a Muslim festival or a Christian festival or a Sikh festival, the Prime Minister will be sure to send his greetings. And I'm sure the Prime Minister is meeting faith leaders from all these different faiths at different points in time. So the fact is, of course, the Prime Minister's schedule is known only to the Prime Minister himself and to nobody else. But I'd like to say that I think this has been as Ambassador Mukherjee has correctly said, and has also been said by our other discussants, it's very important, and there's been a lot of chatter, if I may say so, misinformed chatter about India and its government, that it's basically persecuting the minorities and it is going after them, and there are even reports of genocide, which is absurd, which is absolutely absurd. And I think, and I'm sure that there must be a few people who are extremely, if I may say so, fundamentalists or something on both sides of both faiths who are not happy about this kind of a meeting. But I'd like to say the overwhelming majority of Indians, whether they are Muslim or Christian or Hindu or Sikh or Jain or Buddhist, they are moderate, and they will welcome this kind of a meeting. And they will welcome the initiative taken by the Prime Minister to meet the Pope. And I'm personally happy that the meeting went on for about an hour, because obviously these are two individuals who not only have a lot to discuss, but a lot of commonality in many of their aspects towards poverty, towards climate, towards the COVID crisis. And I would like to again repeat what I said before. The Pope is very much in favor of a plant-based diet.
Right.
In other words, a vegetarian diet. I'm a vegetarian. I don't believe in forcing vegetarianism on other people. I'm sure that, nobody wants to force them, and any attempt at forcing a particular diet on somebody is wrong. But these are so important commonalities binding these two individuals, and I'm glad they met. I hope they meet again. And I can assure you, I'm sure that there will be a meeting of minds and hearts if this kind of meeting takes place, not only of the two leaders, but a much wider constituencies across the country.
Well, absolutely, Professor Nalapal. It's very interesting that you keep reiterating that plant-based point, because I am also a vegetarian, and it's very interesting to me. I didn't know that he's propagated that particular diet. That is unfortunately all the time we have in this bulletin. I'd like to thank all the guests for joining us for this very interesting discussion. We will continue tracking updates from the G20 as well as COP26 here on NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.